Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My overly long hair aside, and the possible mess around me, let's talk about formations and some tactics regarding humans versus zombies here for a minute. While discussing this topic, I'll use these particular blasters to denote these specific sorts of loadouts or these particular entity types. The Line Infantry, Strife, Omega, the Moto Strike. Omega is anything that is designed specifically to take down super zombies such as rocket launchers, mega blasters, etc. Heavy, I've chose the Nemesis because usually a high capacity, high volume of fire rival is heavy enough for essentially horde busting. Marksman, Scout, Hunter, I use the old long strike because frankly it looks like a sniper rifle, and that's pretty much what this loadout would all be about. And of course, we've got zombies, because I'm also going to talk zombie tactics in this video. Tactic number one that I would like to bring up is known as the line formation. This is good if you have behind you a solid object or out of play area that the zombies cannot pass through. Say you have your back to a wall, or you have your back to a stage, or some other obstacle that the zombies can't pass through. This formation is probably one of the most secure that you can actually do, and it can allow you to hold out for long periods of time while minimizing the ability for the zombies to flank around you. Now, obviously, there are some drawbacks to this formation, namely that if the zombies go through the front rank, you've essentially opened up the ability for the zombies to punch through in a local breakthrough, and then the line can start collapsing as the new zombies start going right up to the people next to them and tagging them. So some amount of distance will need to be kept from the zombies and their respawn points. Now the front line obviously is the line infantry. These are the front line of defense that are just going to fire darts to make sure that the zombies are kept at a distance. And if things are getting hairy, then the heavies will start spraying down even more ammunition to whittle down the forces of the zombies down to a point where they are essentially blunt, where the spear tip is blunted. And of course, Omega will be there to prevent the heavy zombies, or the super zombies, from posing as much of a threat as is possible. And the marksman will be essentially taking down zombies at longer ranges to thin the herd even further for the line and Omega infantry. Now, a problem, of course, is that if you have enough zombies, they can essentially concentrate on one general area, and they can lose a bunch of zombies, and then eventually, like a full metal jacket round that punches into the armor, and then essentially discards the jacket, and then sends the actual ball going through the target, or some other armor-piercing projectile. If you use zombies as shields for other zombies, and you overwhelm a certain part of the line, you can punch through and you can exploit the weakness, and then you can surround the formation in its entirety. That is the number one solution for dealing with a line. You got to concentrate your forces, or you have to find a way to go around it or flank them, which is not always an option, but it is a good option when it is available. The next formation is the square formation, or the mutually supporting square formations. Note that the particular layout of this formation doesn't have to be exactly this, but this is just a general idea. The idea with this is that these square formations cover all directions at once, so they can be surrounded by zombies, but they can continue to fight in any direction, thus preventing the problem of essentially the zombies flanking them. And also because they provide mutually supporting fire, and they have distance between different squares, there are areas between these squares that have columns where the zombies can pass through, where they are under fire from multiple squares at once. This increases the potential danger of zombies getting in between these squares, and if you have a large square of squares, that means that essentially getting inside of the entire formation will be extremely difficult, and even if one square is overrun, that means that other squares can provide fire to take down the downed square. This essentially reduces the risk of the entire formation collapsing all at once, because some members of one particular unit have been taken down. This is good for open field engagements rather than in close combat urban conditions, as this very much takes advantage of the fact that there's a large amount of space and you can spread out the square quite substantially, such that you have plenty of room to shoot a coworker if they get tagged and turned into a zombie, and you have plenty of room to maneuver the squares such that they provide the proper covering fire for each other at any given time. Here we have zoomed out of individuals, and we have gone into units, essentially. Note that I have added the category of feral squad. This includes essentially anyone who just wants to charge at zombies and doesn't really care if they survive or if their stuff is practical. They don't care about formations. They don't care about anything but just rushing the zombies and dumping as much ammunition into them as possible. This is the best possible scenario in which the zombies are currently engaged the line infantry. However, the ferals will essentially try to flank the zombies themselves and just mass rush the zombies. This is important not only because the game requires that more zombies be created in the end, but it also disorganizes the zombies fighting against the squares or the line infantry. And that also means that because the zombies are pinned between the feral squads and the lines, this also means that the marksmen and the scouts hunters can actually take them from behind, and they can use the feral squads that are dying in droves and currently causing chaos and essentially being cornet berserkers as a shield, essentially, to start picking off zombies and taking pressure off of both the feral squads and the line infantry. This essentially would be the best case scenario, as all of the line infantry would be supporting each other. The feral squads would be essentially flooding the battlefield with berserkers, and the marksmen would be there to pick off anything that remained. This is a optimal best case scenario, and I believe that this is the sort of formation and the sort of tactics that I demonstrated in the Benefits of Order video, which I will link in the description. Now, you're not always going to be capable of staying in one position and defending. Sometimes you have to actually move quicker than essentially the square can do, and you sometimes have to be on the attack. This is called the ACAC. The staggered formation allows you to cover an area greater than if you were standing right beside the person, and it provides a greater amount of situational awareness. Now, you'll also notice that there are scouts essentially all around this column. That's intentional. They are there to screen zombie attacks and pick off stragglers so that the actual formation has a lot less zombies to worry about. And they're also there to hopefully engage super zombies if they have some form of taking them out. But ultimately, they're there to essentially look for zombie formations and block them from attacking the column. Now, let's talk about how the zombies would actually counter this particular situation. In this situation, you have a lot less concentration of force from your enemy, and your enemy doesn't have the benefit of just standing there and taking shots at you. They're not trying to hold ground in the situation, they're trying to move to other ground to hold. So what you need to do is you need to concentrate forces to break through the scouts. You need to figure out where the scouts are and then you need to figure out where would be the best location to punch through. Now, you'll probably notice that your enemy is moving in one direction. That means they're going to be focusing most of their attention on that forward area. So you're going to want to go from an angle or to the sides, and you're going to want to punch through the marksman on as many fronts as possible, or even possibly one front. Then just take them down as you would the line, because they're going to be relatively close together once you actually get to the ack-ack, and at that point you want to overwhelm them locally so that you can punch through the entire column if possible with sheer numbers. And you're going to lose a lot of zombies, but losing a lot of zombies isn't a big deal because you have infinite lives and they don't. Now, going back to the ultimate combined arms strategy involved in the ferals, you're going to want to tag as many of the ferals in as quick of a time as possible, because more ferals that die equal more zombies, and more zombies means that you get even more force in order to actually break the lines. And the marksman, if you tag enough ferals quickly enough, they're going to be essentially overrun. They're not going to be able to tag the new zombies fast enough to make a difference. So you want to focus on the ferals so that you have a high enough amount of zombies. Not only does this make the zombie side more effective, but this also means that the game has more zombies for the final stand, and you want a memorable final stand because that's more fun for the humans that do survive. And your purpose as the zombie is to have fun being a zombie, and also to have fun and give people fun by essentially giving them that final stand that they so deserve. So do your best as a zombie to just overwhelm the ferals, because they know they're going to die, and they want to die in the first place. They don't care about making it to the final stand. They're just here to try and break you up and blunt the charge, essentially.